Chicago has the largest gang population in the country, with approximately 100,000 members who commit 75 to 80% of the city's homicides. Chicago's police force of 12,000 officers has a lot of ground to cover, something McCarthy hopes the public understand. The police here are targeting high crime areas for more frequent patrols, and a new law signed yesterday by Illinois' governor holds gang leaders responsible for the crimes of their organizations.
I think that we can change the culture of these gangs. At least it's something that we're trying to do, while at the same time doing the law enforcement.
The violence increasingly claims innocent bystanders, like the pregnant 17-year-old girl wounded by a stray bullet through her living room window on Saturday.
This is like Beirut was in the 70s. It's war. People are scared to come out of the doors. They're scared for their kids to sit on the porches and play in the playground. It's total fear.
Across Chicago, 9 people were killed between Friday and Sunday, and 2 more were gunned down just hours ago. A murder rate of 2 a day.
Most of the violent crime in the city gang-related? Yes.
Chicago Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy says the problem has a lot to do with drugs, guns, and gang wars.
One of the most violent disputes that we have that we're trying to get a handle on in the city is an internal dispute in one of our gangs. It's the largest gang in the city. They have an internal dispute where we're fighting and shooting at each other.
It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street. There's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell.
America has a very serious problem. Not only does America have a very serious problem, but our people have a very serious problem. America's problem is self-destruction. Get my self-destruction. Self-destruction. Get my self-destruction.
Hey, how's y'all doing? This is Mr. Blows Your Mind coming with another thought-provoking topic. And today's topic, who's to really blame? Who's really responsible? See, when you assess the situations that have happened among us as a nation of people, and we take or we try or we pronounce that we want to take responsibility based on the simple fact that what we see from the exterior aspect of life and our society is that we see the individuals, the culprits, the criminals, the gangsters, as individuals who look like ourselves, or we was to view that image in the mirror. And that is true. We don't doubt that at all. But is there an underlying mechanism that has been, we're going to say, as like inculcating, meaning that has been assimilated through a program that was stealthily done to undermine the mental, the physical, as well as the spiritual aspect of our nation? Melanin check! I'm going to say that again. Is there a design that has been perpetrated against the nation to undermine mentally, physically, and spiritually? We need to look at this, and maybe this is the underlying causes as to why we have these kind of atrocities in our communities. Now, I know a lot of people are not going to like the simple fact that if you start talking about slavery, melanin check! Yes, that's where I'm going to go back to. Because you have to go to the root of a problem if you're going to try to, diagnose what is the cause. We cannot, and you might have heard in other videos, you cannot assess a situation and attribute it to its modern, at the state that we are right now, and not attribute it to those that have come from the past. We're so quick to throw the past away and not to connect the dots. It's like doing a child's book that has to connect the dots. If you do not connect all the dots, you do not get a full picture of what you are connecting. Otherwise, your interpretation of the picture will be what? Blurred, obscured. So we must look at the contributing factors and try to assess and realize these are the undermining systems that has caused this detriment upon not only the community, but those who are the culprits as well. Now, when we look at what's happening in Chicago, the rash of outness of, we'll say, violence upon whether it be just the regular residents or is it the internal warfare between the nations. When I say nations, I mean those involved in the gang nations. Or is there some kind of mechanism, design, that causes the animosity to be magnetized to the extent that it's like putting two pit bulls in a cage and have been trained to fight, which is become their nature naturally. Are pit bulls naturally killers, or are they trained, programmed to become killers? Melanin check! This is something we may need to look at as using an analogy to try to assess. Because when white people have pit bulls, do pit bulls be aggressive and killers? And I'm not using white folks as a way to say that they raise their dogs better, but just look at the outcome of the different environments when you have a pit bull in the white or just say other ethnicities, but when you use it with black people, the dog seems to be bred in a way to be more vicious, to be used as a security? And how did this pit bull learn this trait? Okay. Some people will disagree and say that the pit bull naturally is an aggressive killer dog. And I'm pretty sure to some extent he has the aggressiveness, but is he really a killer? Or was he trained to become a killer? Melanin check! So, taking this analogy here and looking at it upon our people of nation who have been affected with this design and this program and been trained, we have to look at everything underneath the board, underneath the fine print. Now, let's start with as a child. If a child who was born into the world knowing nothing other than the fact that there's a parent or parents, mother and father, maybe mother, maybe just father, and through the upbringing of that parent or parents with that child, the environment that this child is inhabited in, will this environment program the child so that when it does raise up, the environment that it is conducive to, will it have its effects that will mold this child into the individual that it will become? Melanin check! Many people will agree with me on that. They will tell and say, well, I agree that environment has a lot to do with the way that people are raised. Let me give you an example. If we take our black nation and going back at a particular time when family was the structure, because a lot of people don't realize black people in this country were, and I have to say were because I can't attribute to say that all black families have fallen victims or are problematic because of situations that are happening in Chicago. And Chicago is just the beacon, but let's look at all chocolate cities in this country. They all have a high probability of crime. Okay? Due to these attributing conditions that I'm going to outlay here. So the environment that child, or going back to the point of the parents that were the model, black families were the model. We used to see white children acting upon and ridicule and laughing, and was like, why don't they, train their children? They're in the store grabbing and crying and throwing and tantrum and those kinds of things, right? Where in the black homes structure with the parenting was the major focus upon families, because how you act outside of your home reflected on your parents, and you did not want to bring shame upon your parents. Melanin check! And your name was attributed to your parents, and so you carried them as if, like you see athletes when they are part of a particular brand, that when they get in trouble, this is why a lot of them lose. Like when Tiger got in that situation, this is why they start pulling a lot of that money that he was getting from Buick, Gatorade, and so on, just like with Kobe, right? Because he brought a bad reputation upon the products, which was the one who were paying him, was like his parents. You feel what I'm saying? And so we used to have that sense of morality where we didn't go out to bring shame upon our parents' name. Now, we can say, and many of us do, say that the black family structure has been destroyed or demolished to the point that there cannot be any structure. One, that many will blame black women and say that the black woman has caused majority of the detriment because of her not raising. There have been many males who have been raised by women who still became heterosexual males and men. Melanin check! Now, different environments create a different being. You feel what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that a woman entirely cannot raise a young man to a certain point. She can give him, the encouragement, the knowledge that she has. But there's certain aspects that she will not be able to inculcate in him because of not being a male in particular. But that does not necessitate that she cannot create an individual male that would be productive in society, that would be also morally right amongst his own neighbors. You feel what I'm saying? And so, yes, having a man in the household, having that structure, having that strength. Melanin check! Okay. Will raise a young man and to be conducive to his environment based on the interpretation that the father has and knows and has knowledge of. That's why it's a balancing, as they say, mayat, when you have both parents, because it gives you the positive and the negative to create a balance. Okay? And so, okay. Melanin check! Alright, so the contributing factor that seems to be in majority of what is going on basically in Chicago is that we see children who are second and some third generations. I say mostly at least second generation. Okay? Second generation who were the children of the epidemic of crack that was systematically designed and programmed to be put into those communities to bring about the devastation and now the senselessness and mindlessness that we see that are permeating in these chocolate cities. Melanin check! Chicago being the primary model that is going to be, again, the model that is going to be used in this country to implement certain things that they're going to do amongst other chocolate cities. Now, you heard in the report here where it said that you heard the superintendent of the police. He stated that the problems that are attributed to the gang problems has a lot to do with drugs, guns, and internal warfare amongst them. And if they can breed a new culture, now listen to this. What culture can you breed into them? This is the culture you have already created for them. Melanin check! Not you per se, the individual, but the system in its entirety has created this. And this is what I want to show. And I'm not trying to take the responsibility off of those who are contributing to the violence. I'm just saying that what we have to be careful with right now, understand me well what I'm about to say here. If we do not start looking at the words that are being now said that we don't pay attention to, when you start hearing they keep talking about mental, the mental, mental, the closing of the mental institutions, and now the counties that are holding the jail and population are all mentally, something is wrong with them. Melanin check! Listen to what I'm saying here. These are code words used to tell you how they're going to now prescribe and make notations to put in a file to diagnose you to have some kind of mental criteria or diagnose that will be attributed to you that will allow them, in times of when the call is made, if you should ever be befall of the situation, it will be justifiable in doing what they do to you based on you have already been evaluated, diagnosed. You feel what I'm saying? And so this is what we have to start looking at, because this is what's coming down the road. Again, I keep telling y'all, this is the end game. The end game is sum totaling what it needs to do, because it needs to take that one aspect element that would be the ones that would give you any kind, because let me stop right here. Remember in this report where it said just in Chicago that there was 100,000 gang members in Chicago with a police force that was only 12,000. Melanin check! Huh? If you know your math, right? If you know your timetables, what is 12 times 7? 96 or the 84? 84, so what's 12 times 8? 96. For each officer, he has to deal with eight gang members, and we're going to say that's 100,000 gang members, but then outside of the numbers or the population of the gang, there are other independent individuals that could be in, that just are not part of or attributed to that nation. That could be just regular individuals who are out here doing what they're doing. So let's look at the police force versus those in criminality and the gang. How can 12,000 police officers who have to work 24 hours, right? How can you maintain a city of control when you outnumbered like that? So what am I saying is the gangs are an army. Melanin check! You understand what I'm saying? The gangs have now become an army. And if these armies ever get to the point to start realizing and taking and start looking at minute little things and start thinking in the ways of saying that we want to start land grabbing and controlling, they got just as big an army, and they have, firepower. And in war, if they can get a tank from you, that's their tank now. So gangs are becoming a problem to them. You feel what I'm saying? The numbers that they do attribute to it could be much bigger. Chicago's 2 million plus. In Chicago alone, and you're going to tell me only 100,000? It's got to be more than that. You feel what I'm saying? So there's an epidemic happening. And this epidemic is going to explode into where you're having aldermen, right, who are speaking out in the city and saying that we want National Guards, we want state policemen to come in. Do this sound like something that's being set up? I'm not saying there isn't a problem, but there's somebody new, or as I say, foregone conclude the fact that if we do this back here, that it would attribute it problems later that we could be the answer for. Melanin check! Let's look at it this way. If you built a nation, a state, a country, and you made it a capitalistic country, And it was to flourish based on capitalism. If everyone inside that capitalism country was to be thriving, then what would be the disparity amongst everybody? So somebody has to be chosen to be a detrimented aspect of it so that it can create other avenues of prosperity for capitalism. Follow what I'm saying? If I keep you in a detriment state and then I miseducate you, I impoverish you and put you in environments that conduce violence, not just upon yourself. That's what it was designed for eventually, or in its early stages. And then I put a Mellicott cocktail by putting heroin, cocaine, crack, marijuana, amphetamines, uppers, downers, mollies, you name it. If I put all that in there, right? And then I make the environment where jobs are scarce. I make idleness part of the natural day. I put in plenty of liquor stores. The only thing I give you on Sunday or break is I give you churches all in the neighborhoods. Then I put in stores, and in these stores you're getting old food that other stores could not sell, or so outdated that they put it in your stores, and you get all these discount dollar stores. I put in these fast food restaurants where that would be the one providing for a lot of your meals that you don't like eating at home. And so in the ingredients, in the oils, you feel what I'm saying? I put in chemicals, as well as I do with the alcohol, as well as I do with the drugs. Am I breeding an environment? Am I contributing to the effects that is causing, permeating the society that is now rampant and living in its own incarceration little world and bubble? Those who created that scenario, is this the responsible ones? Melanin check! As being a person who may be into chemistry and understanding elements and compounds and combining and understanding what these attributing compounds will do on a prolonged basis. What are the long-term effects and what do they cause? And then I make an institution to incarcerate those who keep breaking the laws. And according to the Constitution of the 14th Amendment, if once you become incarcerated, guess what happens? You are now legally a slave. And so if you're now legally a slave, meaning you are civilly dead, when you in my institution, I'm feeding you. I'm clothing you. But let's start with the feeding aspect. You get 3 hots in a cot. Say that again. You get 3 hots in a cot. And in that food that I'm giving you, who other people bid to get those contracts to feed you. Melanin check! What's in the food that I give you? If a jail is a revolving door, and in these revolving doors, everybody that I gather within are all in the communities that are blighted. These are the conditions that I've created, and I keep recidivating back to you some more and new improved, and then the outcomes. Because even in the report you heard, or I will play for you, we're talking about because it's hot, and because of being hot, people acting crazy. We are people of the sun. Melanin check! Just because it's hot, we come from the sun. Hot don't have nothing to do with making us crazy. There's something undermining element there that is causing craziness. Okay? It's the breeding inhabitant environment of somebody's design who's caused all this. But you want to reflect the beam from the sun into your own eyes and not being the reflection to the person who is contributed to it. If you read in Dark Alliances by Gary Webb, he tells you who created and put the crack down there. And then we have this mug who comes back later after the 80s and the 90s. He come back as using his hip hop name. He calls himself Rick Ross. Huh? And then if you know about the 80s and basically the 80s, late 80s and the 90s, look at the names of what hip hop was calling themselves. Noriega. They was calling themselves all kind of drug affiliated individuals and glorifying it. Melanin check! Common. Rappers can help reduce violence. This is a Chicago AP report. Grammy Award-winning hip-hop artist Common, who was openly worried about the violence in Chicago, was in his hometown Friday to help celebrate the city's music scene when he was confronted with a brutal reminder of what he's been telling a story about a hail of gunfires that wounded 13 people. It makes me think I got more to do. We got to do more. He said in an interview with the Associated Press after giving a speech as the keynote speaker at Chicago Music Summit, a conference to help local musicians and music professionals with their careers. Police said Thursday's night shooting appears to be gang-related. For the 41-year-old Common, that underscored concerns that the edgy rap music of the generations of rappers that came behind him is not only providing the soundtracks for gangs, but might just be helping to fuel the fire of gang violence. To decide to take someone's life, I don't think they let a rap song determine that, he said, adding that rap artists simply reflects the violence of the streets and don't cause it. At the same time, he said, fans of younger rappers whose music provides a window into a violent lifestyle are influenced by that energy and take it in the wrong way. Common has thought about it enough to once suggest a peace summit with Chief Keef, a younger Chicago rapper whose music includes references to weapons and who was arrested after pointing a gun at police officers and after a video showed him firing a semi-automatic rifle at a gun range. In fact, rap music made its way into Thursday's shooting. A relative of a 3-year-old boy who was shot in the face said the child's uncle was an aspiring rapper who was fatally shot in Chicago this month. Such a link is not surprising to Grammy Award rap artist Rhymefest. He said he believes that at the very least aspiring rappers who are living in poor neighborhoods see the display of violent gang lifestyle as their route to riches and fame. What you get with a lot of young artists is if they gangbang on YouTube, pull guns and threaten someone else, this will give them 1 million YouTube views or 80,000 Twitter followers overnight, said Rhymefest, a Chicago resident who once ran for a seat on the city council. They see it as a check, a way to get paid, and this way out of poverty. Common said the key to ending the cycle of violence that rap music has been linked to for years is more educational programs and other initiatives, and that rap artists should help those programs in any way they can. At the same time, Common, who has his own foundation that exposes disadvantaged young people to be creative or to use creative arts, said that while he still believes a peace summit would be effective, it is only a first step. There has to be a consistent flow through, he said, young people. Some of them may not be in a place where they can say, okay, I'm going to stop violent behavior, he said. It may be a process. You have to deal with that. You feel what I'm saying? And now that we see that in the industry, how this industry is being used to manipulate and do so many things just lyrically, that's just one aspect of it. What about the images that are being portrayed to a people that's supposed to be, this is where they say they're coming from? When you find out that a lot of them don't really come from them environments, but playing the role as if they do. And so if this is what you're creating and then you're putting in the minds of the individual who really lived there, they believe that this becomes what? The norm. This is what we're supposed to do because, look, Blase Skippy is from there, and this is what he did, and this is how he got out, and I'm gonna be less like him because I want to be, you know what I'm saying? I want to flaunt like he flaunting. And he made it. He sold drugs, and now look at him. He big on, he top of the world. He used to sing about how much weight he was pushing in, and now look at him. He on top of the world. I'm gonna do the same thing. He talking about he had to shoot and kill somebody. Look at him. He's on top of the world. Do we see a design being used here? I showed you in the Zimmerman case how you could be manipulated to look over here when really you need to be looking here. Is this what's happening? Again, Chicago is the model. Let me prove something to you that some of you may not know. Melanin check! There was a man named John Crenshaw, right? Alright, so there was I'm going to show you something. There was a slave trader named John Hart Crenshaw who leased the state-owned salt works located in Illinois, Salins, right? Now, when I say Illinois, people recognize Chicago, Illinois. Illinois the state, Chicago being the city, right? Now, the Crenshaw house was mostly known or commonly known as the old slave house. It was a historic former resident in alleged haunted house located in Gatlin County, Illinois. The house was constructed in 1830s. That's what they say. In 1830s, listen to what I'm saying. 1830, right? Which would be only 183 years ago. It was the main residence of John Crenshaw, his wife, and his 5 children. All right? Now, this was a salt factory or a salt plantation, right? It was part of the American frontier economy. But as a nutrient and as a means to preserve food, Illinois was a free state, supposedly, right? They always tell you that Lincoln was the slave emancipator. He was the one that Illinois was a free state because, remember, they keep making you believe that in the North, they were free. But what people fail to realize when they talk about in the North, when they talk about Harriet Tubman, when they supposedly escaped, do you know where they went? They didn't go in the northern states of America. They ended up in Canada. So you see how somebody has tried to manipulate you to believe, oh, the North was free. They went to Canada. So you have interpretation that in the North they didn't have slavery. Well, who the hell built the damn railroads? Who built the government establishments and institutions in these other parts of the states in the North? Huh? So let's just focus on this. Now, the Constitution had banned slavery, right? But however, the law permitted the use of slaves at the salt works since the labor was so arduous that no freeman could be found to do it. So here's John Hart Crenshaw in the state of Illinois, right, who had the salt plantation, and they couldn't get no regular man to do that kind of job because it was an artist type work, meaning that work was extraneous hard, right? So Crenshaw, therefore, the only other Illinois resident legally entitled to keep slaves. And Crenshaw became remarkably wealthy based on, for some odd reason, slavery didn't apply to him, but accordingly it's supposed to apply to everybody else but him. Follow what I'm saying? And because he was so wealthy, Crenshaw taxes, he was paying 1/7 of the revenue of the entire state. Think about that. One dude is paying 1/7 of what he's paying 1/7 of the entire state tax. One man out of the whole entire state. motherfucker was rich. This motherfucker had money on hand over fist. So somehow, see how this money being played, how he can manipulate. And let me tell you something. If you ever watch Vampire Hunter, you know the scene where they in there, they dancing? Huh? You know that scene where Lincoln comes to this party at this house? You know what house that is? That is the Crenshaw house. This is the house I'm talking about. That's where that's where Lincoln got his contribution money for him to run. Huh? Now, he had over 30,000 acres of land, and supposedly he only had 700 slaves, right? Now, he was also transporting from there, giving slaves going across all other places. I'm going to say that again. He was giving slaves and putting across other places that were going to other parts of the country. Now, you say, well, what does this got to do with what you're talking about? Hold on a second now. If this cat, John Hart Crenshaw, who had some kind of clause that slavery he had an exempt part that he could still do slavery, but everybody else supposedly, and if you read the 14th Amendment, it was only pertaining to the South. See, this is what I'm saying. We gotta learn how to read. Quit going on assumptions what you assuming just because somebody want to appear to be like they righteous and then they got love for you. They had this shit in the North. In Illinois, where Lincoln comes from, allow for this to take place, to manifest. And so what I'm saying, if a man can pay 1/7 of the entire tax of the state, what else was he? Who built them buildings in Chicago? Them municipal buildings. We talking about the old ones. We ain't talking about the ones that, we talking about from its inception, in the beginning. And what about all the other parts in the state? They were coming from the Crenshaw house. So technically, Illinois was still a slave state. So that means that Chicago in this day and age is a slave city state. And they're using these brothers because they already know they were already legally slaves from the get-go, and the only way they can do it is to do what to you? Create the situation and the scenario to keep you in it, and then poison you up, retard your mind, uneducate you. And isn't it funny that the biggest holding facility of incarceration is in Chicago? The Cook County Jail incarcerates more than the entire United States. Isn't that ironic? That ain't ironic? It ain't ironic that I'm telling you some history, and can you connect the dots? See, because we have this thing about just because somebody says something is done something, and if no one goes and takes it before, supposedly these people before their judicial system and don't argue the fact and get it off the books, does a law ever become old and outdated if it's still ever on the books? Who went back and repealed it? Who was the family people, and who are the ones that, you feel what I'm saying? Look, man, let me tell you something, man. Diabolical is what it is. And you say what you want. You think what you want to think. Diabolical is how they undermine what they do. Science, you believe, is somehow for you so that you can live longer, and that they're going to find cures for you. Science is a methodology used to how I want to get rid of somebody. You feel what I'm saying? Once I understand how it operates and how all the mechanisms and the ins and outs, I can apply it to you, and I can do it stealthily. Because let me tell you something. When they told you that there was a spiritual war, what you think all this shit is about? The unseen, the things that you cannot detect is spiritual. And this is how they coming at you. They coming at you spiritually, undetectable. Because if you could see it, do you know not that we would rise up? And they got to do everything not to allow you to rise up, so they're going to keep doing it systematically, clandestinely. And so what you're seeing in Chicago, what you're seeing is this fruitioning of all this shit that they have been doing time and time and time again, because the people that was coming from Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, coming up to Chicago, huh? These were slaves. They came from down on them old plantations and things, and they migrated up. And this was already so many generations. And then they figured out, look at the Chicago public school system. You close 50 schools and packing the children in here like sardines. And talking about these are the better schools, and then you go pile on other children that came from one school and then, huh? You mixing, if you took a barrel with apples that was supposedly good and you threw some rotten ones in there, what's really going to happen to the good ones? See, no one wants to talk real anymore. And a lot of people, they maybe hear me, and they, whether you be one of my people or not, I really don't give a damn if you hear it or not. I'm just going to tell it like a TI is. Y'all, they not slick. You see, it's right there in your face, but the thing is, sometimes we kind of try to give people the benefit of the doubt as if they have the good intentions for you, when you can keep seeing that somehow their intent is not good for you. Now, create the environment, induce it with the elements, and then the equation is what you're seeing. Guns are not made there, but they're getting all the damn guns. But no one seems to know where the guns are coming from. No one knows where the drugs is coming from, huh? And you can't even find the damn killers, huh? Really? Come on, man. Can we not see how some things are just being done? Are we just supposed to turn a blind eye and pretend like we don't see it? Because that's what we act like. That these things can keep fruition in our face, and then we keep saying we got to take responsibility. Let me tell you something. Take that word responsibility and break it down. Re means back, spine, huh? Right? Spine means to speak, right? Back speak, syllables, huh? Putting a spell on your ass. A back spine to sybil. A back spine to sybil. Huh? A back spine. A back respond to the syllables. Put the spell on them. See, when you don't know the etymological aspects of these words and you take it in its now modern state, you could be saying something, right? That's like saying somebody coming out of a different generation than you. They say cool, you say now what's up? They say I'm hip, you say we down. Huh? Give me pound, give me fire, give me dap. Huh? Same meaning, different wording, right? But in their case, they'll take the same word and then have a different definition to it, and you, not knowing the etymological aspect of the word, don't know what you're really saying. So you back responding to Sybil. Who are the Sybils? Huh? Those were the ones that was prophesizing, right? Those are the books that they used. Huh? Go read the story about the Sybils and how she had the 9 books. And he wouldn't want to pay the money for the 9 books. So she burned 3. It was 6. Same price. I don't need them. Burn 3 more. 3 left. I better get them 3. So they've been functioning on them 3 civil books. And then if you understand about what's going on in the Hinduism, the magic, we call those from Hollywood, the Hollywoods of the Druids, the magic. Anyway, so you breed this, and then you're going to sit and plant your seeds of informants inside the people, and then they're going to say, hey, we need state police. Hey, we need the National Guards. And then the one that's sitting in the pilot seat that can control, he said, oh, no, we don't want to do that. But see, you're going to make it look like you asking for it. And once they come, baby, look what happened in Katrina when they brought the National Guards in there. They don't even talk about them stories. All the killing that went on in there. Or they attributed to, well, they was in there looting and robbing. And so, well, what other alternatives was there? Same thing here. No jobs. Been incarcerated, so you already got strikes, so you can't get no job. The only opportunity for you is drugs. And then because so many of them are out there festering for little bits and pieces of corner, it becomes gang warfare, fighting over turfs over dollars and cents. And a lot of people getting caught up in the crossfire because, you feel what I'm saying? This is the environment that has been bred. It is not something that we created. It's like the pit bull. They was naturally not born that way. But all the conducive of the environments that bred it made parents drug addicts, crack addicts, prostitutes, pimps. Then we say we got to get educated. We got too many things that we fighting. We got a lot of shit we fighting, y'all. Compounding or compounding. It's like saying, for instance, if I give you 4 bags of groceries, then I give you a box to carry, I give you a bike, I give you weights, I give you a stove, I give you a refrigerator, you'll be like, man, there's too much shit, I can't carry all this shit. And so they're going to bring you to a mental state so that they could diagnose you, and guess what happens? You see, you know how one particular people said never again? But we ain't never said that, y'all. We act like it didn't happen and that it can't happen again. It's setting up for that. It's setting up. And Chicago is the model. I'm Mr. Blows Your Mind, come with another thought-provoking topic. I don't know, man. I don't think even if we got out here and we patent turn these corners and we start talking to a lot of brothers, it's all about economics. And if you don't got the economics to support and to give somebody in exchange for what they're doing, then your words is just going and bouncing off through one ear out of the other ear. There is no echoing. There is nothing to ponder over. There's nothing to think about. You're going to give me, you want me to give up where it's said in the story that some were making as much as $80,000 a day. If you're making $80,000 a day to go to a job that you'll work 8 hours, making $10, you make $80 a day, not including tax. And you can make on the street $2,000 a day, $1,500 to $2,000 a day. Put that on a scale. What would you choose?
Night descends as the sun's light ends, and black comes back to blend again. And with the death of the sun, night and blackness become one. Blackness being you, peeping through the red, the white, and the blue, dreaming of forest black civilizations that once flourished and grew. Hey, wake up, niggas, are y'all through? Dying in the pull of the white man spit as he pours through some drawers in the middle of shit and ain't got nothing to save your funky ass with. You cool fool, sipping on a menthol cigarette round midnight, rapping about how a big apple as your lips struggle to drain that last drop from the wine bottle. And you roll snake eyes, never realizing that you blew. Wake up, niggas, or you're all through.
Often, my words fall on deaf ears. Motherfuckers be listening, but don't hear. Talking to a nigga, he be sitting right here. I be like, where you going? Nigga be like, yeah.